Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of your Brains Coach podcast. My name is Angela Shurina. I'm your host, I'm your Brains Coach, and it is my job here to share with you, bring to you, help you to discover the best brain body tools so you could take better control of your thoughts, of your emotions, of your brain, of your body, and most importantly, of your actions so you could use science to shape life experience to create the life that you truly love living. Today, folks, as promised, we are diving deep into a book, the ones that I absolutely loved, and it helped me to look at productivity at different angles and to fine-tune some of the tools that I personally use and I use with my clients. I teach my clients to get the most out of our days and out of ourselves, especially when we don't necessarily feel like our best or we are not as productive as we could be. Like sometimes you feel like I could do more, but somehow I don't. And what is that? Maybe suboptimal timing. And that is, folks, by the way, in the book, the one that we're going to be covering today on productivity, Charles Duhigg, the author, doesn't talk about timing, but timing is so crucial. You probably know that if you are a morning person or if you are a late night owl, like you have your hours when you just on fire and you can get through so much material, through so much work, so much faster. And then you have other times when you're really struggling with things. Like for me, morning, especially the time between 8 to 11, I'm so creative. I think so clearly, especially after a workout. I'm like dialed in. I need no coffee. I can just go through writing my email and doing my podcast and working on clients' files and figuring out strategy. It's like 3 and when on a good day, even 5 and 6 hours just fly by and I forget about my eating. I forget sometimes about my bladder and I'm like, oh, I need to use the bathroom really fast. But you get the idea. So timing is important. And most productive people at some point figure out their best time for different activities and they optimize their day for that. Because otherwise, something that can take an hour, let's say writing a newsletter or writing an article at your best time will take 2 hours or 3 hours, or sometimes you just won't get it done because you will not be in that space, in that zone where you could put things together and you'll be struggling. So figuring out your best time is super crucial, super important. And I'm still fine tuning that to make sure that sometimes it just feels like not enough good hours in the day to do my creative work and work with clients and work on strategy, etc. Like I wish all the hours were like morning hours and I just run through 12 hours of non-stop creativity and other types of strategic thinking kind of work. Anyhow, so figure out your best timing. For me, again, I'm a morning person. I cannot do work right after I wake up. It feels like my brain still needs a little bit of time to get into its like peak performance state. So I usually just go and work out and wake myself up that way. I'm like, well, I'm not that great for anything at the moment, so might as well go do some exercise. So that always works. And then I get back and I almost like run to my workstation to start working on things because I feel like on fire in the flow already. And so yeah, figure out your best timing, but then you still need to learn how to do your work better, what we're going to talk about today, what we're going to cover today, how to self-motivate when you don't necessarily feel motivated for a specific task, how to set goals, the ones that will help you to move forward, that also will enhance your focus and your motivation, right? There are two kinds of goals you need. How to stay focused on the things that you need to do with all the distractions and emails and messages and all kinds of different projects that you want to work on. how to make better decisions. So these are the kind of decisions that affect your work and your life a lot. So you create the best possible outcomes with all the possible futures. And then how to innovate and not get stuck and create better and better solutions for your business, for your life, for your creative project, whatever that might be. And then how to learn better and faster and absorb data and have it in your mind and retain, and so you can then create better ideas, better solutions, and move your work and maybe your venture, your creative project, your passion project forward. So the book that we are diving into today is Smarter, Faster, Better: The Secrets of Being Productive. I don't necessarily love the title. It's kind of like too, pushy and almost too good to be true, like smarter, faster, better. It's like everyone is screaming at you with those kind of words. But the book does deliver. And the book is structured in this beautiful way that Charles Duhigg, the author of the book is, by the way, is linked in the show notes. So the book is structured in that way that Charles takes one topic, like motivation, for example, and then he tells you stories, and then he gives you practical tools and strategy. And at the end, in the appendix, he shares also his own practice. For example, how he used these practices to write his book. So that was also very helpful in the book, because then you truly understand, this is how you use it in real life scenario, right? So I love this in the book, and I'm bringing to you what I believe the essential toolkit for you to squeeze every ounce of your productivity in the best possible way, or at least get as close to that as possible. So I'm going to give you the simplified, most essential toolkit. But of course, I'm not going to be giving you the whole book on this podcast and everything that you can gather from it, like amazing examples from real life companies and studies on pilots, for example, and how to not crash an airplane in case you ever get to fly one. So a lot of stories, real life examples from the best practices in companies. So also on today's podcast, we're not going to be sharing how to lead a team and how to manage people better. But that is also in the book and is crucial if you are someone who works with people. And that is almost everyone. We collaborate to deliver almost every single project. There is no lone genius who does all the work. Well, if there is, but still not that very effective. Because when we collaborate, we bring different geniuses to the table, which allows to create a solution much more effectively. So anyhow, without further ado, let's dive deep into the first aspect of productivity: motivation. Motivation gets bad rap these days, folks. Motivation means, literally, definition of motivation: the reason to act, the drive to act. Motivation is what moves you forward. And some people say you don't need motivation. No, you do. Because if you lack motivation completely, you're going to be sitting on your ass and doing nothing. So you gotta have that reason to act. Your brain got to understand why you do the things that you do. Even discipline comes from motivation. We always have a reason to act. And how to be more motivated and how to get yourself into action more consistently, especially if you struggle with specific things. And usually we all struggle to approach things that are new, things that we don't understand really well, things that are complex and don't have a well-defined structure and well-defined duration. In entrepreneurship, it's like you have this grand vision and you don't really know when it's going to end or how it's going to go. So you need to learn how to self-motivate without having that clarity. Clarity is very motivating, guys. If you can envision the whole process from right now to the reward state, the accomplishment, you're almost always going to be motivated. But unfortunately, life is anything but that in most cases. And so you gotta learn how to self-motivate without having that clarity of the whole process. Or, for example, if you need to get through taxes or the emails or hard conversations. So how do you self-motivate? Well, thing number one that gives us motivation is a sense of control. So research studies show that when people feel like they are in control, like they are the ones making choices, we feel this agency, we feel that motivation, we feel that power that we want to take action. So the first thing to do is give yourself that sense of control. Give yourself a choice. So how can it look? Well, for example, if you need to get through a project or a writing project, like let's say I'm writing every day now, I'm writing a newsletter. So what I do on the days when I don't feel like writing newsletter, when I feel like I don't have any ideas, like I decided to write newsletter every day, but like how am I going to get those ideas? And sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to write right now. So what I do, I give myself a permission to choose. You don't have to write right now, but you need to write today. And then I look at my calendar. I'm like, well, this is actually the better slot in my calendar. I know that I'm going to feel better at that time after my workout, for example, today, or after talking with my client, because usually that also brings my motivation levels up, right? And so just giving myself that choice, well, you can choose, do it right now or do it later. And then I put it on the calendar. And then at that point, I get back to my email. Or sometimes I tell myself, well, I do want to write in my newsletter, but I don't know how to start. Well, start with the middle, with the main thought, with the story that you want to tell that is useful, with something that just happened in your life recently. So give yourself that choice. So if you don't want to go through emails because there is one email that you don't want to start, that you don't want to touch, then allow yourself to get through the emails that you do want to touch and you do want to open up and reply to. Giving yourself that choice and start it with something that you want to start on, that actually gives you a sense of control. And also you finish a small thing and that gives you a sense of accomplishment and that boosts your motivation. But the most important thing here, folks, if you don't want to do something, if you're struggling with something, give yourself a permission to choose how you're going to do it, in what sequence, at what time. Change up your routine a little bit. So give yourself that choice, that sense of control. And your motivation, your sense of control, your agency will rise. And again, you will feel more motivated. And now the second part of motivation equation is more connected to the definition, that motivation, the reason to act. Is whenever you struggle with a task, like I struggled with taxes recently, I told myself, Angela, you do this because you want to grow your company. You want to grow a big company because you want to help a lot more people. And this is important for you to start working with companies. And so you do that. And then you open up a whole range of possibilities for your business to grow, for you to help more people. So I connected it to why it's so important. And I almost ran to the tax office because I'm like, yeah, I'm dealing with it. And then I felt so good also after, because I accomplished that, because I learned something new, because it was hard and difficult, and I still did it. So connect what you need to do, what you struggle to get started on, to something that is important, to your bigger vision, to your mission, to what is the big idea that you're working on, and that is connected to this small piece of action that you need to get done that might be not that pleasant or not that interesting. So connecting the day-to-day operation, something that you not interested in, that you don't necessarily like, to something bigger than that, something that is meaningful and important for your life, that what also gonna boost your motivation, and consistently has been shown to motivate people. When we understand why our work today, this task is important in the bigger picture of our life, we feel more motivated and fulfilled while doing that. So that's on motivation. Number 2, goal setting. In order for goal setting to work effectively and to move you into action and to help you focus on the right things, you're going to have two kinds of goals: stretch goal and SMART goals. So stretch goal is your bigger vision, your bigger project. Like, for example, for me, building this year a company that produces in revenue 2 million rands. That is a local currency where I live right now in South Africa. But anyhow, so that is the vision that inspires me. But then day to day doesn't tell me much about how to do things, what to focus on. So that's where SMART goals come in. Like, for this month, I'm signing up 5 companies. That is my goal. So that is the measurable, achievable, still a little bit on a stretch side goal, but it's something that I can focus this month. But then again, that doesn't tell me what I do on Monday. So then you have other sub goals. Every day, Monday to Saturday, I'm going to reach out to 50 entities, companies, or people. And I'm going to start 10 conversations. The goal is to start speaking, whether that's text messaging or getting on the call, to 10 people every single day, right? So 50 reach outs, and then the next day, usually what happens, you have follow-ups, you have conversations, you have calls set up, and you do those 10 conversations. And then also at the end of each day, I need to reflect, how did that go? How did that go? What did I learn? What can I do, and how can I do better next day? So that is the process for me right now. But what you want to take away from this, and also what Charles Duhigg talks about in his book for writing certain stories, for example. So you need this stretch goal to keep you motivated, to keep you inspired, to keep you fired up, because just calling 50 people or reaching out to 50 people is not that inspiring unless you understand like why you do this. So that is the goal for the day, to reach out to 50 entities. But why? So that is your stretch goal. And when you have these kinds of goals, and the SMART goals give you the focus for the day, and then the stretch goal gives you the motivation. Once you have these kinds of goals, it's so much easier to feel more motivated, the motivation that we talked about, the reason why, and then stay focused on day-to-day operations. And now to focus, how to stay more focused. And here I found it very interesting in the book, and I haven't encountered that anywhere else, that Charles talks about focus from the perspective of having a mental model that you depend on when your focus start to go off track, and to prevent your focus going off track and distractions overwhelming you or taking you away from the important work. So what was unique and I found very interesting in the book is that Charles talks about having mental models for your work in order to keep your focus strong on what needs to get done, on the most important things. So here's what I mean by that. Focus, state a goal. For example, today you need to, or over the course of the month, you need to sign up 5 companies. Okay. And then you have a SMART goal. Every day you reach out to 50 people. So the mental model that Charles talks about is you then need to envision the whole process. Okay, I'm going to reach out to 50 companies. When am I going to do that? What are the obstacles that can come up? Like, for example, emails, calls, or social media scrolling, my kids and my family asking me things. What are the obstacles that can come up? And when the obstacles come up, what do I do to succeed? Like, for example, in order to not get distracted, I'm not going to check social media until this 50 reach outs done. If I still struggle with my phone, I'm going to put my phone away, out of sight, out of mind. In order for other people not to distract me, I give people notice that these are the hours I'm not available. I'm working on XX, and unless it's an emergency, please do not disturb me. If something urgent comes up, then I'm going to deal with that emergency and then reschedule the rest of work for later that day. And how do I know that I succeeded? I reached out to 50 people and I started conversations with 10 people, entities, etc. And what do I do next? I will plan the next day to do my 50 reach outs after reflecting on what I did today and the result that I got. So I think now you might understand that if you want to focus, you gotta talk through the whole model in your mind. You gotta create this recipe of what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, what distractions and problems come up, and how I'm going to deal with this distraction, and what success looks like, and then how I make sure that I succeed no matter what that day, and what will I do next. And the more specific you are about this process, the more specific you are about all the possible problems, distractions, overwhelms that's going to happen, that might happen in your day, the more specific you are, and the more solutions you have, the better your brain gonna be at dealing with all of these distractions, problems, and issues, etc. And in the book, there is a really fascinating story about pilots who were trying to land a plane. Well, they were piloting it, and there was a problem, and just a lot of things piled up together. And unfortunately, the plane crashed. But and the how they retrieved the data about what was happening on the plane is like, they have these black boxes that monitor the whole activity, what's happening inside of the plane, so then that data can be analyzed and research, etc. So the pilots, because they didn't have this mental model of if this problem happens, what I do next, if this problem happens, what I do next, because there was a situation that produced anxiety, that they started panic. Their brain didn't have a model to fall back on, to depend on. So they did a bunch of silly things, stupid things, I guess, under conditions of pressure and anxiety and things going wrong. And they didn't have a mental model, and they focused on the wrong things, and the plane crashed. And what research and data presented in the book shows that when you do have a mental model how to act when things go wrong, when your brain has something to depend on that you define in advance, and you write it out, spell it out, and you repeat it as much as possible, when your brain does have that process, the problems that arise, your brain deals with them effectively, like distractions or things happening, and then you are able to refocus back on the important thing. So that's how you focus, create a mental model, and obviously have a goal, have like the SMART goal and the stretch goal, so your brain knows what to focus on. So focus first starts with the goal in mind. Number 4, better decisions. How to make better decisions, especially long-term decisions, especially decisions in the conditions of uncertainty, unpredictability, which life is. How to make better decisions to move our life, our business, our ventures, creative ideas into the desired direction, eventually, sooner or later. How to make better decisions for that. Very simple model. Before making any decision, like, for example, should I work on a project X or should I work on a project A, on a project or a project B? Before making that decision, envision different futures that can happen. So if I do project A and I put in a lot of time and energy into that. Now, what possibility of success does it have? Is it a high possibility, medium? Is it low possibility still? And then if I do project B and I put again energy, effort, resources into that, what is the possibility of success from my knowledge, from my experience? Is it high? Is it medium? Is it low? And depending on that, you're like, well, based on the data, based on my knowledge and experience, and by the way, you can also ask people, you can create mini projects to gain more experience, to test things out. But you test these possible futures, or at least envision them in your mind. And you see, okay, this is the future that is possible. This is the future that is possible. That is the future that is possible. And then, depending on where the percentage of success of each project, you then ask yourself, well, what can I do to make sure that this possibility of success is higher? Or this is higher, and the potential results, will I get a better, a more meaningful outcome, whether a chance of success of this project is low or higher? Will the result be meaningful? Will there be more learnings? Even if, for example, project A has a low probability of success, but even if the success is low, will I learn a ton of stuff on the way there, which will then help me to get better in the future? So you have this conversation with yourself, and then you have a better chance of making the right kind of decision and also staying in the right kind of mind. What do I mean by that? Well, for example, give you a real example from my life. I was debating with myself, should I spend my morning, my most productive time on taxes, on paperwork on that day, or should I go there later? And I told myself, well, the probability of success is actually higher in the morning because there are less people, based on my experience, because people are fresher in the morning and they're more positive and they're more likely to take you on, even if they have to work with you for many hours. They're not rushed. They are usually after breakfast, beginning of the day. So the probability of success and things happening faster is much higher during the morning. And then even if I don't succeed and I don't get everything done, I get to learn a whole lot more, and I do get to spend less time and that's going to move my bigger project working with companies faster at the end, compared to if I go in the afternoon, things will take longer, have less probability of success, and people will be on a darker side or a less productive side, etc., right? And I walked myself through this decision-making process, and I went in the morning and I got everything accomplished and I learned everything I needed to learn. But then before going in, I said to myself, even if I don't get things done, all the things that's gonna happen still gonna produce net positive results, because I'm going to learn a lot more and people will have a lot more time for me, which will benefit me even if I don't get the result done. So walking yourself through all the possible scenarios and outcomes and what you can do to affect the possible outcomes in the positive way will help you to make better decisions and create meaningful results with any outcome. To generate even better decisions and be better at projecting different outcomes and different results, in order to get better at that, you need to do more things and analyze your experience and test a lot of things. So take action, get a result, and that's gonna be put into your bank of experience that you can rely on to make better decisions in the future. That's why thinking isn't as productive as doing, because then you do it, you test it out, you get experience, and then in the future you can make better predictions about possible outcomes, right? So that, and also ask people with experience in those areas to generate decisions talk to people and ask, if we do this, what do you think is going to happen? If we do this, what do you think that's going to happen? Generate as many possibilities as possible with other people also, because two heads are always better than one, different experiences, different thought processes. So generate as many possibilities as possible, see what's most likely from your experience and experience of other people, and also see what outcome you can actually affect with your actions to create the better, bigger possibility, more likely possibility that result will happen. So that is how you generate better decisions. You consider all the possible outcomes. You get as much information as possible. You get yourself to taking more action, so you get more experience. And then you see how you can affect the outcomes and where, and do that. So that's how you make better decisions. Consider all the possible futures and see which ones are most likely to occur and which ones are more beneficial to you. If you analyze 360 effect from learning to getting experience to getting specific result, right? And then test it out, get things done, and get more experience, and repeat. Number 5, how to innovate, how to not get stuck and produce better solutions for anything you're trying to do in life. Innovation, folks, it's not being a genius of some sort or getting ideas out of thin air. Research shows that the most creative people are the people who have the most experience, and they expose themselves to many different ideas through books, podcasts, trying a lot of things in real life, right? Back to making better decisions. The more experiences you have, the more ideas you expose yourself to, the more research you do, the more you get curious about things, the more different ideas, perspective you have. And that's why it's also so freaking amazing to these days being able to expose yourself to so many smart people, and then also a lot of times talk to them and ask them questions. And you see, the purpose of communicating with people is not to understand that or to prove that you're right, but no, to get more experience, more knowledge, more different perspectives, because what's in your head is different from any other head out there. So innovation happens when you have a lot of ideas and you combine them in many novel ways. So that is what innovation is, the recombination of all the different things. No innovation happens in a vacuum. That's what the main point you want to take away. So expose yourself to as many ideas as possible. And then once you get that, also start paying attention to why things happen and how they happen. Analyze your experience, do more, try more, take more action, and then give yourself a chance to get more aha moments. I did that and that happened. I learned about that. I never knew this happened, and I wonder why that happened. Create more mental models, explanations, theories, test them out, learn more about that. Start to put attention and energy and time into thinking about things. So, because if you just expose yourself to a bunch of ideas, but never reflect on them, never analyze them, never think about them, it's kind of like just doing half of the job of what creativity, what innovation lies upon. So have the experiences, expose yourself to many ideas, talk to many different people, get more perspectives, but then also think about that. Even better, do something with that information. Write newsletters, do podcasts, work on different fun and creative projects, to combine ideas, create different mental models, world models, how the world works. That's at the core of being innovative, of being creative. But then once you have all of that, and you might not still have the solutions, the creative ideas, innovation that you want, what's also recommended from the best practices in the industries, in companies, on individual levels, is introducing some sort of change, disruption to the process, to your life, to how you work on ideas, on projects. That is also very helpful. Sometimes what companies did, they just changed the person who was in charge of the project, or they they changed part of the team working on that solution to introduce that change, new perspectives, fresh blood, so to speak. Or they disrupted the process. They made people do things in the opposite order or at different times of the day, or even in the different room. That also works. Some novelty or a lot more novelty will work to help your brain to get unstuck and start firing different patterns. So introducing change, introducing disruption to your routine. Like for me, if I'm not feeling innovative, I'm like, gotta go out for do an event, gotta go out and explore, try to cook something new, try a new hobby. So get your brain unstuck by introducing change and disruption. And what also helps is to introduce constraints and put yourself on a schedule or in a tight timeline, and introduce some anxiety, some stress into the mix. That will also help you to become more flexible, will open you up to possibilities, will put you into a state of creative innovation. Like you don't want to be too stressed, especially for a long time. That actually makes creativity work worse. But a little bit of anxiety, of creative anxiety and pressure and not being able to figure things out does open up human brain to considering options that you did not consider before. So again, innovation, let's sum it up. Have experiences, expose yourself to many different ideas, to different perspectives, different people you don't agree with. Read books that you wouldn't usually read. The more the better, the more combinations your brain has to work with, the more innovation going to come into your brain. And then also, don't forget to reflect on that. If you don't think about ideas you expose yourself to, you're not going to be getting very creative. It's like just a bunch of stuff downloaded into your head with no connections whatsoever. So spend time playing with those ideas, like Lego blocks, or what if we did create this model, or I wonder why this happens, or I wonder if I change this, what's going to happen. So do these experiments. Creating disruption, change to your process, to your timeline, to the environment where you live, where you do your work, going to different coffee shop, to different co-working place, doing a little bit of travel, again, changing your schedule. A lot of these things will help your brain to unstuck and get into a different pattern of firing neurons, which will bring new ideas. Or again, if you're working with a team on some sort of innovation, then introduce change by rearranging people, by working on the process upside down or from the other end, or making it bigger, smaller, more long-term, less long-term, more short-term. So all of these combinations will help create a different box for your project. And then some anxiety, stress, challenge will help to loosen things up a bit and put you on a different track. So that's the best practices for innovation, personal or in groups. And last but not least, how to learn better, to absorb data and to be able to use it in your work to make things better, faster, and smarter, right? How to learn better, how to become better at learning. Well, the best way to learn better and to retain that information is doing something with that information. That's why I write blogs, I do podcasts, I make videos, I teach this to my clients, I use it in my workshops. This information becomes very tangible. It becomes ingrained in the products, byproducts of my work. It's everywhere. Like again, I write about it. I teach people. I talk to strangers. I do this podcast just like I'm doing right now with this book. Now this book is more alive. It's part of me, of my brain, of my thinking, of my mental models, right? Do something with that information. Teach it to someone. Learn to teach. One of the best ways to absorb more information and to learn it much better. Like when I read books, you know why I retain so much more information than an average person? Because I'm always thinking, how can I use it in my work? How can I move my business forward with this? How can I make more money? How can I help more people? And I'm looking for this information and I putting it in my mind in all these possible different scenarios. And then I'm like, how can I use it in my newsletter? How can I use it in my podcast? Oh, that might be great for my workshop, right? And because of that, I learn and retain a lot more information than an average person that usually just goes through the book and doesn't remember in a month what was in that book and what was most importantly useful and how they could benefit as a human being. Like somebody puts decade of their life of their work into a book and you get to absorb it, but then you don't use it. It's like a waste of so much time and effort and usefulness that your life can be enriched with. So folks, to sum it up, today we dived deeper into the Smarter, Faster, Better, The Secrets of Being Productive book by Charles Duhigg that is linked in the show notes. It's available probably everywhere on Amazon and on Charles' website. We talked about how to make the most out of our time, of our talents, of our energy. We talked about the most important things, motivation and goal setting and focus and innovation and better decision making and learning better. So again, I did not cover everything, obviously. The book is long. It's filled with stories, also a lot more about managing people, teamwork, collaboration. So please do refer to the book, pick it up, read it in the right kind of way, trying always to think, how can I use it in my life? How can I teach it to retain all that information and to then use it in your life and in your work? Hope you liked our episode today and you got to learn a lot of very useful things. And the only thing that is left for you to do, folks, is to re-listen to this podcast episode to retain more information, to think about how you can use it in your life and in your work. And also do share this with other people, with your spouse, with your kids, with your parents, with your co-workers. By sharing and teaching, you get to retain information a lot better for a later use in your life and in your business. So share because you care. Check out the book in the show notes. And also somebody told me that you can now text me, podcast host Angela, via link in the show notes. So try it out. I'm also going to do that. So share because you care, re-listen to learn better, teach to learn even better, and get things done smarter, faster, and better.